Left off test. Vayichad Yisrael al kol hatovo asher osa Hashem liYisrael asher hitzilu miyad Mitzrayim. He had rejoiced when he heard what Moshe had shared with him, due to all the good that Hashem had done on behalf of Yisrael, that he saved us from the hand of the Egyptians. Okay, so before I respond to your question, there's a very beautiful Sifarno here. I mean, if Yisrael would have been on a more advanced level, what should he be rejoiced over? So take a look in the Sifarno, if you have one in front of you. Second. Let's leave that right now. Yeah. In Tess, in the Sefarno. Vayichad Yisro al kol hatovo. Lo somach al ibdan Mitzrayim. He didn't rejoice that Egypt was destroyed. He rejoiced that the Jews were saved from the hand of Paro. Right? That's what he rejoiced. Kiroi lemekane lechoro kono. He says, what would have been appropriate, he really should have rejoiced that the Egyptians were destroyed. The Egyptians themselves were the Chil Hashem. You know, when Hitler was destroyed, Yemach Shmo v'Zichro, who's Amalek, you rejoice that the Jews were saved, or you rejoice that Amalek was eradicated. So the Sifarno is saying, Yisro fell short over here. He should have rejoiced that the Egyptians were destroyed, because the one who takes avenges God's glory, you rejoice over that the Egyptians were destroyed. Why? Yismach Tzadik, ki chosem nokom. As the pasuk says, when the tzaddik sees that God took his revenge, that brings joy to tzaddik. Avosomech al tovosam shel Yisrael, but that he was rejoicing over the benefit that happened to Klal Yisrael. Kimrachim al dimas ashukim. There, that's due to his rachmanis. That's he's like he has a soft spot for the ones who were victims. He's rejoicing that the Jews are no longer victims. Rather than rejoicing they're no longer victims, you should rejoice that the victimizer is no longer here. Because a person who's interested in kavod kono and the glory of your maker, that's what you rejoice over. That the enemy of God was destroyed. Not that the victims are no longer being victimized. That's the Sifarno. Okay? That's just in passing. Now, when he heard all that Moshe shared with him, what did Yisro say? Pasuk Yud. Vayom Yisro. Baruch Hashem asher hitzil eschem miyad Mitzrayim. Baruch Hashem, blessed is Hashem that he saved you from the hands of Mitzrayim, miyad Paro. Asher hitzil es'o mitach yad Mitzrayim. Let's take a look at Rashi. Asher hitzil eschem miyad Mitzrayim uma kosher. They were a very difficult people. Miyad Paro melech kosher. Tach yad Mitzrayim loshen vidui. In addition, that you were under what? You were enslaved by them. You were afflicted by them. So he said, Baruch. So there's a famous Gemara in Sanhedrin. The Gemara says that Gnus, listen to this, Gnus leMoshe Yisrael, Shlo Omru Baruch, v'Yisro Omer Baruch. The Jew, Moshe Rabbeinu never said Baruch. Klaus never said Baruch. Yisro said Baruch. When he heard what happened, he said, Baruch Hashem, Baruch, blessed is Hashem. Klaus never said, blessed is Hashem, and Moshe never said. And the Gemara said, it's Genai. It's Genai. It's something which is negative, reflects negatively that they fell short of what they should have said. They should have said Baruch, they did not. So I asked the question, what do we then say Baruch? We said, Oz Yoshir. You could have articulated what happened better than Moshe Rabbeinu said. Every detail, every nuance of what happened, how the Egyptians were destroyed, was said through the Oz Yoshir. So what do you mean, Genaihu Yisrael? It's something negative against Yisrael and Moshe that they didn't say Baruch, and Yisro did say Baruch. So the way I explained it in the past, we explained it was this way. Ozi Asher is only depicting and identifying what happened. Who is Hashem? But the thankfulness, thanking him, that they didn't say. Baruch is blessed because I'm the beneficiary of that. Blessed is Hashem. He is blessed because what he did. Ozi Asher, you're only articulating what he did. But you're not saying Baruch. So therefore, they fell short because they should have expressed themselves like Yisro. So it could be because, and it points this out, he's blessed, it's Ganai, for us it's Ganai, for him it's a Shevach. It's a praiseworthiness. And as a result of this, I was thinking, when you asked me the question, why the Parsha is named after Yisro, here Yisro was acclaimed for this, and we're criticized because we fell short of what we were at, what we should have been at. That's what I was thinking when you asked the question. Vayikach Yisro Chosid Moshe Ola Uzvochim Lelokim. Moshe, the son-in-law, his son-in-law Chosid Moshe took burnt offerings and shlomim lelokim. Vayavo Aaron v'choziknei Yisrael lecho lechem im Chosid Moshe lefnei Elokim. Let's take a look in Rashi. Vayavo Aaron u'Moshe hechen hoya. Where was Moshe? He's the one who went out to greet him, and everybody followed. He was the waiter. He was serving them hand and foot. Okay? Moshe Rabbeinu, you'd say, he's so exceptional, you have somebody else do it. No. He understood. How do you honor a person? By having the most honorable person accommodating the people's needs. Lefnei Elokim. Now, what's Lefnei Elokim? What way was Lefnei Elokim? Shekol mikan shanene misuda shtamei chachomim mesubin bo. You hear this? If a person benefits from the Suda with Talmidei Chacham are participating in that Suda, it's like you're benefiting from the radiance of Hashem. Now, isn't because they spoke Torah. You have a Talmidei Chacham at your table. What do you think the discussion is? Torah. It seems to me that's not the issue. What is a Talmud Chacham? What does he represent? He's an embodiment of the Shekhinah because he is the receptacle. He's the repository of Torah. Therefore, the Shekhinah is where he is. The Gemara tells us in Brachos that if you host a Talmud Chacham and you feed him, it's like you brought a korban. His consumption of your food is a korban. The wine you give him that he drinks is like you brought libations on the Mizbeach. Because he is that embodiment of Torah, the food he eats is like you bring a korban. The wine he drinks is like pouring the wine on the Mizbeach, the libations. So therefore, as a result of that, it's because you're exposed to an entity which the Shekhinah is associated with that entity. In Mochros, and it was the next day. Now, next day of what? Important Rashi here. Vayeshev Moshe l'shvira'om. Moshe sat to adjudicate all the cases of the people. Vayamad ha'om al Moshe min haboker erev. And the people were waiting from morning to evening, waiting for their cases to be adjudicated. Vayikra Chosid Moshe Eskol Asher Roseh Vayar. The father of Moshe saw all that was happening. Lom V'yom Moad Dovar Zeh Asher Ta'oseh Lom. He says, "What are you doing to the people? Here, the people are waiting in line to be accommodated." Right? Why are you sitting by yourself? People that standing and waiting from morning to evening. So let's take a look at Rashi. First, what was the Mochros? V'yim mochros motzei Yom Kippur hayo. It was after Yom Kippur. So what is after Yom Kippur? This is after Shvis Haluchos. Fast forward again. We skipped over Kabbalah Sator right now to discuss Kach Shani B'Sifri Umam Mochros Rito Minahor. When he had come down from the mountain with the second set of luchos, Koch Yevshe Loma Elim Mochros Yom Kippurim. Sherei Kod Matan Torah. Yevshe Loma Vodati Es Chukai. Umeshridna Torah Ad Yom Kippurim Lo Yoshem Moshe Lishatom. Right? From the time Torah was given till Yom Kippur, Moshe wasn't adjudicating anything. Shari Yud Zayin Tammuz Yorad V'Shibas HaLuchos. On the 17th Tammuz, he came down with the first set of tablets. He broke the tablets. Bocha Olo Bashkomo V'Sho Shmonim Yom Yorad Yom Kippurim. And he spent another 80 days back and forth. And he came down Yom Kippur. Therefore, Rashi writes, it's Chazal, that this Parsha is not in the sequential order. Shal Nemar V'Mochres Ad Shana Shniya is the second year. V'afle divrei Omer Yisro Kodim Torah Bo Shilucho El Arza Loya El Shana Shniya. Shari Nemar Kan Yishlach Moshe Chosno Umatzina B'Masa. Okay. Kodim Torah Mishisholcho Olach Hecho Matzina Shechozar. Okay. Vayeshev Moshe V'Yamar Yoshev Kimelech Kulam Nomdim. Moshe sat like a king, and they're all standing. Yisrael had difficulty with this. Hear this? He felt he was belittling the honor of the Jews by having them stand, and he sits all day. And he informed him, why are you the only one sitting and everybody is standing? It's a zilzul. It's a belittlement. So you're belittling the people. You're treating them disrespectfully. Okay? That's what Yisro said. The Dayan who renders true judgment, even for a moment, as if he studied Torah all day, it's as if he's a shutaf, he's God's partner in creation. Okay? So he has difficult. Yisro feels this is a disrespect. Okay? We'll see in a moment. As much as Yisro understood, he didn't fully understand. You think Moshe didn't understand what he said, what he's going to say in a moment? Ki novel people that you're going to wither. The question, who is Moshe? Moshe Rabbeinu, his neshama was the equivalent of all Klal Yisrael. Any Jew that was exposed to Moshe, even though ultimately the system's not going to be able to continue, because ultimately he's going to wither, but for the amount of time that he's able to maintain it, the value has value. Even though in the long run it's not going to carry. And the Midrash says explicitly, Moshe knew it wasn't going to work. But for the meantime, as long as it was meant to be, let it be in place. When the people come to seek out Hashem, Rashi, Lemitva Upa, Lishol Talmud Mipi Agvura. They're coming to ask the law of Mipi Agvura directly from Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu was like the conduit to that. And I would adjudicate between them, and I would form of the statutes of Hashem and His Torah. Moshe's father said to him, "Lo tova dor it's not good. What you're doing, regardless of what you're saying, it's not good. Novel tibol gama tov gama om hazeh sheim imoch. You're going to wither, and the people are going to wither. You can't do it yourself. You have to have other people participating in the process." And I would Okay? As I mentioned, Moshe understood this, but Moshe felt even for the short run, for the short term, it's worthwhile that the people should be exposed to him, to have direct contact to him, because he was the direct link to Hashem. And whenever he would engage with them, it's as if Hashem's engaged with every one of them. If you have the lower judges, so even though the halacha is correct, because they received the Torah from Moshe, but they're not the conduit. That's not the same link to Hashem. As though to that, the people are different people. They're not at the same level. You know, somebody once asked Rabbi Yoshev, you know, the 36 hidden tzaddikim. And they said, how could Rav Shach not be one of the Lamed of tzaddikim? Everybody knows Rav Shach is a tzaddik, he's this, he's that. So Rabbi Yoshev said, it's true, you know what he is, but in reality, you don't really know who he is. So in terms of hidden, he's a hidden tzaddik. Because what he truly is, that you don't understand what he is. You understand? So you meet Rav Shach and you interact in Torah, you say he's special. You don't even see the tip of the iceberg in terms of what he is. As much as Yisro understood who Moshe was and everything else that went along with it, but to fully get the full picture, like he says, I can't wrap my head around it. That kind of thing. He didn't get it fully. Because he would have gotten fully, he wouldn't have said, you're belittling, you're acting disrespectfully to the people. He could have never said that. Because the value of Moshe being in that position, them being in that position, that's the ultimate privilege to be able to be exposed to what Moshe represented. He judged their cases. Meraboket Erev, right? That's what it says in the pasuk. So Rashi himself says in Yudalit, F Shalom came, and was Moshe Rabbeinu involved adjudicating the cases from morning to evening? Elo kol dayan shed done emes lamito. Any judge who renders a true judgment, afil shachas, even for one moment, malav akosov kilu osik batorah kol hayom. The Torah values it as if he engaged in Torah all day long. And he's the equivalent of God's partner in creation. The Gemara Sanhedrin, the Gemara Shabbos cites this Chazal similar, but he leaves out a piece. It doesn't say it the way Rashi's bringing it from the Bechilta. It says a person who's done emes lamito shel Torah, person who renders a absolute truthful judgment, he's God's partner in creation. That's what it says in the Gemara. Rashi adds, brings something here. Malav akosov kilo osek b'Torah kol hayom. It's as if he studies Torah all day long. That the Gemara doesn't say. What is that all about? That even if he renders a judgment for one moment, that is the equivalent of studying Torah all day long. Adding a very important piece, a famous word from Rav Chaim Volozhin and Nefesh HaChaim, and the Chofetz Chaim cites the name of the Zohar. We say every day, God renews creation. Every moment creation is being renewed. The pasuk, the Navi says, if not for my bris being in place continuously, the world would not exist. And the Zohar says, and Rav Chaim Volozhin says this also, doesn't cite the Zohar, that if there be a moment in existence, within a 24-hour period, where Torah would not be studied, the world would revert back to pre-creation. Torah has to be in place continuously. And if it's not in place continuously, the moment you have that lapse, the world reverts back. Because what fuels the Torah? In lo bris yom v'loilo. My bris, which is in effect continuously, day and night, the world wouldn't exist unless it's in effect continuously. Okay, that's the Zohar of Chaim Volozhin. Here he's saying a dying. This is min boker erev. It says, does he adjudicate the case from morning to night? No. But the one who renders this true judgment, he's God's partner in creation. And Hashem values it like you study Torah continuously. Look what he says. He values that as if you study Torah all day long. That for a moment, rendering a correct judgment, which is absolutely truthful, is the equivalent of studying all day long. What is studying all day long? That's a When you study all day long, you're God's partner in creation, because the world would not exist if you wouldn't be studying. So a dayan who renders a judgment, which is truthful, even for one moment, it's the equivalent you're accomplishing the same thing. You're God's partner in creation. That's how fundamental and essential rendering that true judgment is. But he's equating one to another. It's literally that pshat. So the way we explain that, to understand this, the Rambam paskins in Hildas Deos, that a Jew has an obligation to maintain his health. Torah obligation. Why? So the Rambam says that you can only have a healthy mind if you have a healthy body. You cannot have a healthy mind unless, why? Because if a person is distracted with his ailments and his pains and all these side issues, it detracts from the focus. You can't have clarity of mind. Therefore, you have to maintain your health to your best ability. And as a result of that, if a person, it's just part of his genetic makeup that he's susceptible to certain illnesses, that's not attributed to him. But if it's within his choice and power, ability to live healthy, not to allow these things to come about, he's held accountable. So why doesn't he have the focus? He doesn't have the focus because he didn't live responsibly. Therefore, as a result of that, you have an obligation to maintain your health to your best ability to maintain that focus. The famous Medrash says, "Im ein din lamato, yesh din lamalo." If there's no judgment, there's no justice on the terrestrial level, then there's divine justice. But if there's justice on the terrestrial level, Hashem says there's no divine justice. That's the Medrash. Now, what does that mean? We find that Hashem initially, when he created the world, wanted to create the world with Midas Hadin. Why didn't he create it with Midas Hadin? Because the world wouldn't have survived. Because the exactness and the preciseness of Midas Hadin on the divine level means we're not going to have many survivors. That's the level how perfect you have to be. Therefore, it says, he's shiti from Midas HaRachmim. Therefore, it's Midas HaRachmim. But one thing is clear, you have to have justice. You have to have justice. Without justice, the world can't continue. So what does Hashem do? Even though there's no divine justice, there must be human justice. The human courts have to adjudicate the cases based on the parameters that Hashem sets in place. So therefore Hashem says like this, if there's justice on the terrestrial level, so then meeting that criteria of existence, then there's no need for divine justice. But if there's no terrestrial justice, because the courts are corrupt, then there's going to be divine justice. If there's divine justice, the world is tottering whether it's going to continue or not. So therefore, this is it. So the dayan who renders that truthful judgment, and he's meeting the standard which Hashem expects, there's no divine justice. So why does the world exist? Because of that one dayan. Because that dayan is maintaining terrestrial justice, and therefore there's no need for divine justice. Therefore, just as Torah guarantees the ongoing existence of the world, otherwise the world will revert to pre-existence, identically, the dayan renders the correct judgment even for a moment. He's guaranteeing there's no divine justice. Therefore, the world's continuing because of his verdict. So it's as if his verdict for a moment is the equivalent of studying Torah all day long.